I've never been the kind of guy who attracts drama. I'm not flashy, not reckless. I show up on time, stay late if needed, and I keep my head down. So when my boss, CEO of the company, man practically built from concrete and Rolex steel, called me into his office, I thought I was getting fired. Instead, he smiled. Not the fake corporate grin either. A real one. It caught me off guard. "You're going to San Diego," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "Big pitch. Clients like young blood. You're smart. You've earned it." I just nodded, unsure of what to say. I'd only been with the company 8 months. People usually don't get rewarded for just doing their job, at least not where I came from. Then he added, like it was nothing, "My wife's going too. She'll handle the event side. You two will represent us." That's where it got weird. His wife. I'd seen her at a couple company parties, tall, elegant, stunning in that classic Audrey Hepburn kind of way. Way out of his league, people whispered. She smiled politely, but there was always a sort of distance in her eyes, like she was somewhere else. Still, I wasn't prepared for the idea of traveling with her. He didn't wait for a response. "She's already booked the flights. You'll be flying together." And just like that, the meeting was over. That night, I told myself I was reading too much into it. Maybe it was normal. Maybe she was just the best person for the event. But even the way he said it felt off. Not suspicious, exactly, more like dismissive. Like she was luggage. The next morning, she was waiting at the terminal. Light beige trench coat, black heels, suitcase beside her. She looked like she stepped out of a fashion magazine. When she spotted me, her whole face lit up. "You must be Michael," she said, offering her hand. "I'm Claire." I shook it, trying not to stare. "Nice to meet you." "Likewise. Hope you don't mind window seats. I tend to get a bit claustrophobic." I nodded. "All yours." On the flight, we barely talked. She scrolled through her phone, sipping red wine, occasionally glancing at me like she was sizing me up. It wasn't awkward, just quiet. Polite. Once we landed, she handled everything. The rental car, hotel check-in, even the dinner reservations. It was like she'd done this 1,000 times. I followed, rolling my suitcase behind me, feeling like her assistant more than her colleague. At dinner, things started to shift. We were at this rooftop restaurant, the kind with warm lighting and overpriced drinks. She ordered for both of us without asking. "You don't mind seafood, do you?" I didn't. Over the first glass of wine, we talked about work. By the second, she was telling me stories about her college days, how she met my boss at a fundraiser, how he proposed after knowing her for only 3 months. "Whirlwind romance," she said, taking a slow sip. "You ever fall for someone that fast?" I shrugged. "No. I'm not sure I believe in that." She smiled, eyes holding mine a second longer than they needed to. Smart. Back at the hotel. We had separate rooms, of course. She paused at her door before turning in. "Early morning," she said. "But tonight was nice. You're easy to talk to." I nodded. "Yeah. You too." The next day was all business, client meetings, presentations, handshakes, fake smiles. Claire handled the social side like a pro, charming everyone in the room. I watched her glide through the event like it was second nature. Everyone noticed her, including me. That night, I found myself thinking about the way she touched my arm when she laughed, the way she looked at me when no one else was watching. It wasn't overt. Nothing anyone else would clock. But it was there. This strange, low pulse beneath the surface. Over lunch the next day, she asked about my life. Where I grew up. Why I took the job. What I wanted to do beyond spreadsheets and client decks. She leaned in when I spoke, eyes locked on mine like nothing else mattered. It was disarming. She was older, confident, self-contained in a way that most people weren't. There was no ego, no manipulation. Just this quiet intensity that drew me in without trying. On the third night, we went for drinks after the conference. I tried to say no, but she insisted. "Come on," she said. "We've earned it." She picked the place. A small bar near the marina, dim lighting, soft jazz in the background. We sat in a corner booth. She ordered something with gin and herbs I couldn't pronounce. I got a beer. You're not like the others, she said, swirling her glass. Most of the people in your office, they're all about show. Suits, power plays, trying too hard. You're different. Different how? She tilted her head. Genuine. Still, a little unsure of yourself. It's rare. I didn't know how to respond to that. Compliments from women like her weren't something I knew how to handle. You ever feel like you're meant for something bigger? She asked. I nodded slowly.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels like it's happening to someone else. She smiled like she understood exactly what I meant. Outside, the night was cool, the air laced with sea salt. She walked close to me, arms folded. When we reached the hotel, we paused in front of the elevator. Another big day tomorrow, I said, trying to sound casual. Yep, she replied, but didn't press the button. The silence stretched. She looked at me, really looked, then smiled, soft and sad. You know what's funny, she said. My husband has no idea who I really am. We've been married 10 years, and I don't think he's ever asked me what I want. I didn't know if I was supposed to respond, so I didn't. Finally, she pressed the elevator button. Good night, Michael. Good night, Claire. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that moment, about the way her voice cracked just a little, the way she said my name. I thought about how close we'd stood, how easy it would have been to reach for her hand, and how wrong it would have felt. But I also thought about how right it might have felt too. This wasn't some office crush. This was real proximity. Emotional intimacy born out of circumstance and timing. I didn't ask for this. I didn't expect it, but I felt it, and I knew she did too. The guilt was already creeping in, even though nothing had happened. But the possibility alone was enough to make me question everything. And somewhere, deep down, I knew something had already shifted. The next morning was quiet between us. Professional smiles, brief exchanges. She didn't bring up the night before, and neither did I. But everything felt different. The air between us was heavier, like we'd crossed a line without touching. At breakfast, she kept the conversation light. Big day today, she said, pouring herself coffee. Let's try to impress them. I'll do my best. You always do. We went through the motions, meetings, client pitches, networking lunches, but there was a tension in her gaze every time our eyes met. Not discomfort. Something else. Recognition. A silent, mutual awareness. After the last meeting wrapped, we had a few hours of downtime before the evening dinner. She suggested we walk along the harbor. Said the fresh air would help clear our heads. I hesitated, but she was already moving, her heels clicking softly against the pavement. She talked about the sea, her childhood summers in coastal towns, how she used to imagine running away to Europe with nothing but a suitcase and a notebook. Romantic dreams, she said with a wistful smile. I used to think life would be a lot messier and a lot more magical. And now I know it's just messier. I didn't push. I didn't need to. The look in her eyes said more than words could. She was tired. Not physically, emotionally. Tired of keeping things buried. We sat on a bench, overlooking the water. She took off her sunglasses, placed them in her lap.
Her tone changed.
Do you ever feel like you're playing a part someone else wrote for you? I didn't answer right away. Sometimes. She nodded like she expected that. I was 25 when I married him. He made everything feel like it was already figured out. No guesswork. No uncertainty. I thought that was love. Turns out, it was just convenience dressed up in a tailored suit. I looked at her. She wasn't trying to get sympathy. She was just being honest. He doesn't cheat, she added, almost like an afterthought. At least I don't think so. But he checks out emotionally. Like I'm a piece of furniture in his office. There when needed, ignored otherwise. I stayed silent. Anything I said would have sounded like judgment. Sorry, she said after a beat. I didn't mean to unload on you. It's okay. She looked at me. You don't talk much, do you? I guess I don't want to say the wrong thing. Then you're already better than most men I know. Back at the hotel, we went our separate ways again. I tried to focus on emails, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. about how she looked when she spoke, the way her voice softened when she talked about the past. I didn't know what she was doing to me, but I didn't want it to stop. That night's dinner was with the clients. Everything went smoothly. Drinks, laughter, polite conversation. Claire was magnetic. She made people feel seen, like they mattered. I watched the way people leaned toward her, charmed by her presence. I understood it too well. Afterward, she didn't ask if I wanted to grab a nightcap. She just started walking toward the bar in the hotel lobby. I followed. She ordered whiskey neat. I got the same. "I like that you don't try too hard," she said after a long sip. "Most guys in your position would be peacocking by now." I smirked. Peacocking? You know, showing off, flexing, overcompensating for something. You're different. You listen. You observe. Makes people underestimate you. That a good thing? For someone like you, it's perfect. We kept drinking, not fast, just enough to blur the edges. She leaned forward a little when she spoke, resting her chin on her hand. Her gaze lingered longer. Her voice dropped slightly.
Softer.
More personal. "You ever think about what you'd do if nobody was watching?" she asked. I didn't respond right away. "I mean it," she said. "If there were no consequences. No judgment. Just instinct." I didn't need to ask what she was really asking. She was opening the door. Not kicking it open. Just a crack. Just enough for someone to make a choice. I didn't walk through it. Not yet. When the bar closed, she stood up, smoothing her dress. "I'll see you tomorrow, Michael." My name sounded different in her mouth. Like a secret. I didn't sleep much that night. My body was tired, but my mind was running in loops. What would it mean to give in to something like this? Not just the risk. The betrayal. The shift in who I believed I was. The next day, we had no meetings. Just travel time. She wore jeans and a loose white blouse. Casual. Effortless. Somehow even more attractive. On the way to the airport, she played music, low volume, soulful and slow. In the terminal, we sat in silence. She looked out the window, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Every so often, she'd glance at me, but say nothing. On the plane, she booked us in first class. I didn't ask who paid for it. She offered me gum, a small smile. Our elbows touched on the armrest. She didn't move hers. Halfway through the flight, turbulence hit. Nothing major, but enough to jolt us both. Her hand gripped the armrest, then slowly, lightly, rested against mine. Just a few fingers brushing. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. When we landed, it was late. We barely spoke while waiting for bags. She called for a car. As it pulled up, she turned to me. "I'll drop you off." "You don't have to." "I want to." The ride was quiet. When we reached my apartment, she didn't say goodbye right away. Instead, she looked at me. Her expression unreadable. "You're a good man," she said. "That's why this is hard." I didn't answer. My throat felt tight. She leaned in, kissed my cheek, soft, slow, lips lingering just a second too long. Then she pulled back. "I'll see you Monday." Then she was gone. I stood there holding my bag, heart pounding for reasons I didn't understand. It wasn't the kiss. It was everything that didn't happen.
And how much I wanted it to.
Monday came, and nothing felt the same. She walked into the office like nothing had changed, but I saw it in the way her eyes paused on me for half a second longer than necessary. No one else noticed. No one ever would. That was the danger of it. It was invisible. Hidden in plain sight. She didn't speak to me directly all morning. Just polite nods, brief acknowledgments. But the silence between us spoke volumes. I kept replaying the car ride, the kiss on the cheek, the way she looked at me before disappearing into the night. Later that afternoon, she messaged me. Just one line. "Dinner tonight. Not work. Just you and me." No punctuation. No emoji. Just words. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't answer immediately. I didn't want to seem eager, but I knew I'd say yes before I finished reading it. I replied with a simple, "Okay." That evening, I met her at a quiet spot outside the city. She'd chosen the place carefully, low lights, tucked away, The kind of place where no one asked questions. We didn't talk about work. We didn't talk about her husband. We talked about everything else: music, travel, the kind of lives we wished we were brave enough to live. At one point, she looked at me and said, "I haven't felt like this in a long time." Like what? Like I exist. Like I'm seen.
I didn't know what to say to that.
So I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. When we got back to the car, there was a long pause before either of us moved. She was staring straight ahead. Her voice was quiet when she spoke. "I shouldn't be here. You are." She turned to me slowly. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something else. Instead, she kissed me. There was nothing hesitant about it. No testing the waters. It was a release. Weeks of tension, words unsaid, thoughts buried under responsibility. I kissed her back. Hard. When we finally pulled apart, she looked shaken. Not afraid, just overwhelmed. "I can't stop this," she whispered. "Then don't." She drove us to a place she knew. A rental property under a different name. She didn't explain how or why. I didn't ask. The moment the door closed behind us, it all unraveled. There was no more pretending. No more restraint. Everything we'd been holding back came undone. We were clumsy, frantic, quiet when we needed to be, but not careful. I don't know how long we were there. Hours. A night. It blurred together. The way she moved, the way she looked at me, it wasn't just lust. It was escape. For both of us. Afterward, she lay beside me, facing the ceiling. Her chest rose and fell slowly. She wasn't smiling, but she didn't look guilty either. She turned to me and said, "We crossed a line." I nodded. "I know. And I don't want to go back." I didn't have a response. Because part of me didn't either. And that terrified me. She stayed until just before sunrise. No dramatics. No promises. She just got dressed, leaned over, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "Don't regret this." Then she was gone. The next few days were a blur of stolen glances, secret texts, and restless sleep. We didn't talk about what we were doing. We didn't make rules. But it kept happening. Whenever we could. Lunch breaks in her car. Late evenings in hotel rooms she always seemed to have access to. It was reckless, stupid, and completely out of character for me. But I couldn't stop. She was everything I didn't know I craved. Unfiltered, raw, chaotic. She didn't ask for anything except my presence, my touch, my silence. And I gave it to her without hesitation. The guilt came in waves. I'd see her husband in the hallway, smiling, nodding, trusting me. And I'd want to crawl out of my skin. But it never stopped me. Not once. One night, after another hours-long escape, I asked her, "What are we doing?" She rolled over, draping her arm across my chest. "We're doing what feels right, but it's not right." Then why does it feel like the only thing that makes sense? I didn't have an answer. We both knew it couldn't last, but neither of us made the move to end it. It was like we were stuck in some suspended reality where only the two of us existed, where consequences didn't reach us. Until they did. It was a Thursday when it started to crack. Her husband walked into the office with flowers. A surprise visit, all smiles, laughing with the receptionist. He handed the bouquet to her in front of everyone. "I missed you this week," he said. She played her part well, laughing, kissing his cheek, holding his hand. But when she turned to me, her eyes told a different story. It wasn't guilt. It was panic. That night, she didn't message. The next day, she avoided me completely. By the third day, I couldn't take it. I found her alone in one of the side offices. She looked up, startled. "We can't do this anymore," she said before I even opened my mouth. I stepped closer. "Why?" "Because he's starting to notice. And I can't hurt him like that." "You already are." "So are you." The silence stretched. She closed her eyes. "It was supposed to be one time, but then you made it impossible." I felt sick. Not from her words, but because I knew they were true. I hadn't just crossed a line. I'd sprinted past it and dragged her with me. "What happens now?" She opened her eyes slowly. We stop. We forget. We go back to how things were. That's not possible. I know. She walked past me, gently brushing my arm as she left. That night was the first time I realized what I'd really lost. Not just her, but the version of myself I used to recognize. The following week was quiet. Too quiet. Claire avoided me like we'd never met outside of work. She stopped replying to texts, no longer lingered after meetings, and refused eye contact in hallways. The silence between us wasn't neutral. It was loaded, sharp, intentional. I tried to act normal. Show up, keep my head down, stay professional. But my thoughts kept circling back to her. I wasn't just missing the intimacy. I missed the conversations, the looks, the parts of her she only let me see. The space she gave me in her life, even if it was temporary. One afternoon, I saw her laughing with someone else in the lobby, one of the newer VPs. She was smiling in that same effortless way she used to with me. It hit harder than I expected. Not jealousy, exactly. Just the realization that whatever we had, she'd already locked it away and moved on. Meanwhile, I was stuck in the in-between. That evening, I went to the same rental place she'd taken me to. Alone. I just sat there, staring at the walls, trying to understand what it was all supposed to mean. There was no closure. No final word. Just a slow dissolve into nothing. She'd disappeared from my life, like a dream I wasn't sure had happened. The temptation to call her, to say anything, hovered for days. I typed messages and deleted them. I practiced conversations in my head I'd never get to have. Everything felt unfinished, but maybe that was the point. Maybe this was all it could ever be. 2 weeks passed before she finally approached me. We were in the elevator alone. She didn't say anything for a while. Then, just as the doors were about to open, she turned to me and whispered, "I think about it every day." Then she stepped out and walked away. It wrecked me. It wasn't just the words. It was the confirmation that I wasn't the only one still tangled up in it. That she hadn't erased me. That maybe she couldn't. But knowing that didn't make it easier. It made it worse. Because it meant we were both pretending. The next month was a blur of restraint. We avoided anything that could be misread, never stayed in the same room too long, always made sure someone else was nearby. We were textbook professionals.
Cold.
Controlled.
Distant.
But underneath that surface, the tension never disappeared. If anything, it grew stronger. There was something dangerous about pretending to be indifferent when everything inside you was still on fire. Eventually, I asked for a transfer. Not because I hated the work. Not because of her husband. I just couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't breathe in the same building without wanting something I wasn't allowed to have.
She didn't ask why.
She already knew. On my last day, she sent a message. No goodbye. Just, "I never lied to you." I stared at those 5 words for 10 minutes before responding. I know. That was the end of it. The new office was quieter, smaller, easier to navigate emotionally. I buried myself in projects, stayed late, kept to myself. People called me focused, ambitious. The truth was I just didn't want to feel anything. It was easier to live in spreadsheets than memories. Still, some nights, I'd wake up thinking I heard her voice. Smell her perfume in a stranger's hallway. Feel her fingers ghost across my skin when no one was near. It was phantom pain. A part of me amputated but still twitching. Months passed. Eventually, even the ache started to dull. Then, one morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, her voice filled my ear, shaky and low. "He knows. Everything." I stood there in my kitchen, coffee forgotten, heart lodged somewhere in my throat. She didn't say anything else. No request. No explanation. Just those 2 words, and then silence. I didn't call back. What would I even say? A week later, I ran into her at a networking event. She looked thinner, tired, older somehow, like someone who hadn't slept in days. Her husband wasn't with her. She walked up to me, slowly, like she was unsure if she even had the right. "I told him the truth," she said.
Why?
"Because I couldn't keep lying." "What happened?"
He left.
Said he didn't want to be with someone who could do that and keep breathing like nothing happened.
I didn't know what to say.
She continued. I didn't tell him your name. He doesn't know who it was. I swallowed. Why not? Because it wasn't about you.
It was about what I needed.
You just happened to be the only real thing in my life at the time. I should have felt used. But I didn't. I understood exactly what she meant. She looked down. I'm not here to fix anything. I just needed you to know what happened. Are you okay? She hesitated. I will be. She started to walk away, then turned back. For what it's worth, I loved being with you. Even if it was wrong. Even if it ruined everything. Then she was gone again. That was the last time I saw her. Over the years, I moved on. Met someone new. A good person. Honest. Steady. We built something real. It wasn't flashy or chaotic, but it was whole. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was hiding parts of myself to keep the peace. Still, sometimes, when the world gets quiet and I'm left alone with my thoughts, I think about her. Not with regret. Not with guilt. Just with the knowledge that some people come into your life to shake it loose, to show you the parts you were too afraid to see. She didn't stay. She wasn't meant to. But for a little while, she made me feel something real. And for better or worse, I'll never forget it.